Welcome to the Christ Love Movement Podcast, where it's all about Christ and His love for you.
All right, everybody, welcome to Christ Love Movement Podcast number, I don't even know the count at this point.
Number 5, y'all.
It is number 5, all right.
4, 5.
Well, this is going to be interesting. This is a different way we're going to do it. It's a new one. We're going to do a series, and we think this is a good one.
Yeah, we're talking about the armor of God, folks, and this is going to be a 7-part series, so every week you're going to be listening in on how we tackle the topic. Try saying that real fast, Kurt. Tackling the topic, suffering succotash, on the armor of God.
Yes, absolutely. If you got a Bible, you can go ahead and look it up here. In Ephesians 6:11 is where we're going to start. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll go through and I will read the first couple of these till we get to our first topic for today.
Read the first one. Go ahead.
So it says, "Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against the spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth." I'm going to stop there. That is our topic for today. We're going to talk about, what does that mean? What does it mean to girt yourself with truth?
The belt of truth.
The belt of truth. Yeah, it depends on the
waist.
Translation you're looking at. Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on the translation you're looking at, we're talking about putting on the belt of truth. Now, Kurt, you're a legal student. You're about to be the big defense attorney. You're going to be the next attorney general for the state, something like that. Kurt is he's going to be all of that and then some regarding law. But what would you say the word truth means, especially as it applies to this scripture?
Well, in this case, kind of what I've been doing, and this week I went through and I was very careful to every day wake up, and the first thing I did in the morning is start thinking about truth. Mm-hmm. I thought, what is the truth of Christ? And what I did is, in order to, in my method of girding my loins with truth, what I decided was that I would wake up and just call to the attention of my mind the truth of Christ. What did Christ do for us? About Christ coming and going on that cross for forgiveness of our sins. Mm-hmm. The truth about, He's here for us. Whatever we need, He's here for us. And just trying to call to mind as many truths from the gospel as I can to have that at the top of my mind in the morning. Because then as you go out through the day, different temptations, different statements, you're on Facebook and somebody posts some stuff on there that's anti-Christian and you see it, that stuff kind of deflects off you a little easier when you've got all that truth in your mind to begin with.
Now, interesting enough, you were referring to Christ's truth, and during this week you were trying to not only be mindful about Christ's truth, but how can you apply Christ's truth to your own life? What comes to mind now is I read a little passage on William Shakespeare's play Hamlet. Mm-hmm. And he has this very famous line that everybody should be mindful of, or should already know, and it's the statement that goes, "To thine own self be true." Now, you mentioned about being true, applying Christ's truth to your life. I think Christ would have us to be true to ourselves first, because if we are truthful or honest, or as young people would say in their language, if we are keeping it real or 100 with ourselves, then that is the most direct pathway to embracing Christ's truth. Now, it is idealistic to say, yes, we're looking at Christ's truth and, that is great. But what is the truth for us? The way that we can embrace Christ's truth is if we know what truth is as it applies to us first.
Well, and I two things on that I want to say. Number one, to me, truth is truth. It's either right or wrong. It is an absolute. There's truth out there and there is falsity. There's lie. So applicability-wise to life, part of what I was looking for when I was prepping for this week, when I was thinking of this, how can I take this passage of the Bible and help myself out and apply this to my life? And that was where I came up with the idea, or, I was praying and God put it on my mind, or I just came up with it on my own, I don't know, but either way, God's involved. So that's where I had this idea to go ahead and every day bring to mind truth. Mm-hmm. Fill my head with truth so that when I go out, I have that truth backed up. I don't have to sit there and try to call to mind truths in the heat of the moment. A lot of times people, and we're going to go this, okay, everybody deals with temptation in their life, mm-hmm. okay? Mm-hmm. And part of putting on this armor of God is to protect against that. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody knows you've been in that moment where all of a sudden there's a whole lot of lies that are sounding a lot like truth being whispered into your ear.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
If you have to, at that moment, start calling truth up from memory, then it becomes more difficult because you're trying to fend off lies and recall truth at the same time. Mm-hmm. If you've prepped yourself early in the day, it doesn't have to be right when you wake up, but early in the day, if you've prepped yourself by filling your mind with truth ahead of time, then when it comes up, you've got that essentially shield up of truth that you've already got that there. You don't have to sit there and think back because you just had it on your mind this morning. It's a lot easier to recall. And so that gives you that shield to fend off some of the lies and some of the temptations that might pop up in the day.
Well, I'm glad you even said shield, because as we're looking at the belt is basically, shield to ward off certain attacks or certain temptations that we might engage in daily. But with regards to one of the pieces of armor that we're talking about today, the belt is to hold us up. Mm-hmm. And truth is to keep us in an up state of mind of honesty, of sincerity, or as the definition might say, veracity or truthfulness. What we're saying is, folks, we need to know what truth is for us on a daily basis. What is the truth? That's one of the things that in Pilate's and Christ's conversation in the book of John, the 18th chapter, right around the 38th verse, that's their question. That's their dialogue. What is truth? And as we engage in combat, because mind you, Ephesians 6, that 11th through the maybe 14th verses is talking about standing firm. Putting on this armor is to allow us to gird ourselves against what is to happen during the day. Girding ourselves, keeping ourselves mindful with the, we're about to engage in some sort of conflict or engage in some sort of a battle or war, if you will. Not just with temptations, because temptations is a stratagem, if you would, of demonic attacks. However, when we get ourselves up in the morning, we're saying, look, I'm going to live this life right. I'm going to be honest about how I engage my day. I'm going to be truthful as I engage with one another or with my wife or my kids or people on the job or wherever. I'm going to have an upstanding of morals and ethics today or every day henceforth. That allows us to, even as we engage with conflict or whatever nature, then we can already have in our mind, look, I'm going to keep this in my mind and I'm going to stand on it. I'm going to stand firm on just being honest today, just being truthful and sincere, because truthfulness and sincerity, they go hand in hand. How many times have we been insincere or untruthful as we go about our daily lives?
Yeah, and it happens. And it's interesting because that is such a perfect point to be able to be truthful and to live your life in a truthful manner. In addition, recognize what's going on in your life in a truthful manner. And that's something else that I think is important. So truth has a lot of different sides to it. We've got the understanding of the truth of God. We've got understanding about being truthful and honest in your own life every day, as well as this third prong here of recognizing what's true out there. A lot of times we look at situations and we put our own emotions on it, or we interpret it to mean something different. So
right.
Let's take a good example that I know everybody here can relate with. You're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off. Now, you can look at that situation truthfully and say, listen, somebody's obviously impatient or something's going on and they had to get over fast, and you know what? There was no accident. Nobody's hurt. Just this spooked me because somebody got over so fast and was very close to an accident, but it didn't happen. That's looking at it truthfully. Looking at it non-truthfully, and I know you want to jump in here. I'm going to let you jump in a second. Looking at it in the non-truthful manner that we often do, we get pissed. Who is this person to think that they can come over and get so close to causing me an accident? What gives them the right to do that? And we get ourselves worked up, and if we don't have that truth, if we don't look at the situation truthfully, we get ourselves angry, we get hate, all these different things build up in us that can cause problems and allow the devil to get into our lives. Now, in addition to that, and I'm going to let you go on here because I can feel you want to talk on this. In addition to that, by opening that, I forget what I was going to say. I'll let you go ahead.
Well, let me just say this. Scripturally, the Bible is telling us for our struggle isn't against flesh and blood. As we engage, as we go about our day, be honest, be truthful, be sincere, be aware, be sober, be vigilant in our day with the knowledge that, look, we're going to go against opposition. It is a spiritual stratagem, a spiritual tactic from the devil to put certain things or examples, just as what you spoke of. You're driving, someone cuts you off. It is a scheme. It is a tactic. However, if we go already girding ourselves up that we're going to be honest in our approach, sincere as to how we engage, and then that'll allow us to, even when we have a situation like that, we know that we're going to be honest with ourselves because maybe we approached a potential accident with, maybe we didn't want to let that person in our lane, as they're trying to merge. Maybe we didn't want to let them in front of us, or maybe there's so many other schemes that the enemy uses, not just for unbelievers, but for believers as well. And being honest, or as, Shakespeare would say, to ourselves being true, if we're truthful to ourselves, we have to also realize that, look, we played a role in the conflict, which is why our wrestling, our conflict, isn't just a physical one or a natural one. It's spiritual. It's some things that we just can't see.
It's very interesting, and you're right. There's a lot of different attacks, and if you're interested in understanding that, there's a great book. It's fiction. It's not nonfiction. It's fiction, but it's called The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
Have you ever read that?
Heard about that.
You've heard about that. Okay.
Yep.
Excellent book. It's very interesting, and what it is it's a story, and it's about a demon that's supposed to convert a Christian and get them to mess up. Okay? And what the Screwtape Letters are is this is a conversation from the demon that's supposed to be doing the work to his boss. And they're back and forth about try this, try that, what are you doing, how are you letting them do this, and that kind of thing. It's very interesting just from the fact that you kind of start to see, well, I can see where that could happen. I can see where you've got, these demons that are putting little whispers in your ear and the different tactics they try to use. It's really cool. I highly recommend it. Actually, what I'll do is if you're reading this or if you're listening to this, on our website, ChristLoveMovement.com, I'll put a link to the book so that you can go ahead and go take a look and buy it if you want to and read it. It's really, really an excellent book.
But also check out, if you would, Pat Robertson had a audio series years ago, especially while I was in college, called The Whole Armor of God. And it's a series that kind of, if you would, talks on the same as the book, The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis, except in this case, Pat Robertson is breaking down the whole nature of Satan, Lucifer, his position, where he was and where he is now, and what his tactics were, what his strategies were, what his purpose was. And as it relates to, Ephesians 6 and right around the 12th verse, struggling not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Mind you, applying the belt of truth keeps us aware that there are things going on beyond our natural scope, beyond what we can even see. And so we have to be mindful, folks, that if we're not getting up with the mindset to be honest, to be truthful, to be sincere, then just know we're being used as a pawn in the devil's scheme to not only trip us up, but to cause us to fall and to be ultimately destroyed. Being truthful, putting on that belt around your waist of truth. In other words, just saying I'm going to uphold a righteous and a moral and ethical standard. We're not even getting into the spiritual aspect. We're just talking about moral and ethics. You getting up every day and saying I'm going to do what's morally right, I'm going to do what's ethical, then that's holding up honesty. Apply the word of God to that and saying, God, I'm going to do what's moral and ethical because of your love for me, and not just for me, but for this world. You said it in John 3:16 that you love me so much. I love you so much that I'm going to choose to be sincere. I'm going to choose to be honest. I'm going to choose to do what's ethically correct or moral. Or morally.
Yep. So what does that bring us to today? So what can you take away from today? Here's what I want you guys to understand. There's multiple things that you can do with truth that will help you through your day. Number one, understand and reflect on the truth of Christ every day. Whether that's reading your Bible or just saying some prayers in the morning and just taking a minute. Have that truth in your mind at the beginning of the day. Number two, be truthful and honest. As you're going through your day, be as truthful and honest as you can. Everybody kind of jokes with when my wife says, does this dress make me look fat? What should my response be? Should I be truthful or should I be politically correct?
No, actually, I would be careful.
So that's not what we're talking about.
I'll be careful to tell the truth.
Right. What you want to do, though, is to just be truthful and try to be as truthful as you can throughout your day and face things head on. In addition to that, look at every situation in a truthful manner. So 3 things there. Put the truth of God in your mind in the morning. Try to be truthful and honest as much as you can throughout your day. And lastly, look at everything in a truthful manner. Look at things that happen to you for what they are. Don't make them up into some big thing if they're not, and don't minimize it. How many people get in trouble because they say, "Oh, I know that letter is coming in from a bill collector, but I'm going to ignore it." Well, that's denying truth. Face it, look up at it, and say, "Oh, this is what I got to do. I got to deal with this in some manner." So by doing things in a truthful manner, by putting the truth of Christ in your life, by looking at situations truthfully, you're going to see a lot of benefits in your life from that. And I wish you guys have a great week, and I hope things go well. And actually what we might do is we might put these out one right after another so that we have them up fast, but we'll see on that. We're not decided on how we're going to release these yet. But anyway, God bless you. Have a great time. Have a good week, and keep the truth of the Lord in front of you.